The Olympic groupings came out a couple of weeks ago. Why are we showing Leon Draisaitl? Well, he's going to be leading the charge for Team Germany coming up. Germany, part of Group A, along with Team USA, Canada, and the host nation of China. So when you look at Team Germany, is this a country that maybe could make some noise and ruffle some feathers in Group A with the likes of Team USA and Canada, given some of the potent superstars that they have in Tim Stützle, Philipp Grubauer between the pipes, and a guy like Leon Draisaitl?
I think the future looks brighter. I think the German program really is coming along really nicely. Some of the names you just mentioned, and Big Leon we saw, and we all know league-wide how effective, how dynamic Leon Draisaitl is. But it's just in terms of the German program right now. I think the best way to look at this team as compared to some of the others we've talked about, JMO, when you think of Canada, the U.S., Russia, even Sweden, for the large part, Finland to some degree. You're talking about the players that will appear on those rosters probably almost across the board appear on top 6 or top 4 components of NHL teams, player by player by player. As you look at the German roster, Leon Draisaitl, Tim Stützle we've mentioned, a guy like Tobias Rieder, Grubauer, Moritz Seider on the blue line, Corbinian Holzer on the blue line for the German team. But there are a lot of unfamiliar names after you get past that group. To me, hard to compete with, clubs, programs that are chock full of guys that are top 6, top 4, first-round draft picks, for their respective teams.
If you're Team USA or Team Canada, not a team that you want to take lightly or maybe look past, though, given the fact that it is a tournament, and in a tournament, if you have a hot goalie like Philipp Grubauer, he could steal you some games.
And you got a nice 1-2 punch there, too. Don't forget Thomas Greiss behind Grubauer. Greiss has, over the course of his career, shown he's capable of taking on that number 1 role, that number 1 workload, and being very formidable. But Grubauer, to me, is a guy that, without question, if he caught a flyer early on in the tournament, that could be a guy that could really make it difficult for even a USA club, men's club, to knock him off the mark.
We here in North America love the fact that Canada and USA are in Group A, so we'll see an early matchup between those two powerhouse nations coming up in Beijing. Let's focus in on Group B now. Taking a look at the teams in Group B, you have the Russian Olympic Committee, the Czech Republic, Switzerland, as well as Denmark. Let's dial in on Czech Republic here. We may have a reunion of a former Boston Bruin and David Krejci, who's going back home to play in the Czech Republic for the regular season, as well as David Pastrnak.
David Squared.
Yes, David Squared from the Czech Republic. What do you make of the reunion and the chemistry that these guys showed while in Boston?
Well, you've got a pair of guys who will factor in the top 6 for the Czech men's Olympic team, at least projected. And you love the fact that these two guys have spent a good bit of time together on the Boston roster. Both dynamic, both very gifted players, and that familiarity, that chemistry that they've developed over time, when you're talking about these other programs bringing yes, high-end talent together, but for the most part, players that have not played together at least a lot during the regular season, nothing like Krejci and Pastrnak, that forms a bit of an advantage for the Czech program.
All right, Tween, you go up and down the Czech Republic roster here. There's one name who's certainly a Hall of Famer and a legend when it comes to Czech hockey. He's actually still playing over there for Kladno. He owns the team. He plays for the team. He's 49 right now. He will turn 50 on February 15th, smack dab in the middle of the Olympics. Will we see Jaromir Jagr playing in the Olympics at age 50, do you think?
I would love to see Jaromir Jagr playing in the Olympics at age 50. It's doubtful to me that we will for this reason. I read something from him recently, and he's talking about his club, Kladno. If he were to remove himself from the mix, and I think he's implying that he should be removed from the mix, he's just that big a name back home in the Czech Republic that the team effectively, the gate is empty. Nobody's coming to watch this team. So, I'm reading into that. Jaromir Jagr, if given his druthers, is probably riding off into the sunset as we speak, and taking up a spot on the Czech roster probably wouldn't be foremost in his thoughts.
I'm holding out hope still.
We'll see.
And maybe right off into the sunset right there in the Olympics.
It'd be so fun to watch how effective he could be.
We shall see. Another team in that Group B that could be very effective, given all the firepower they have, the Russian Olympic Committee. Look at the roster that this team can assemble and the firepower. You talked about depth down the middle. How about the wingers on this team? I mean, Panarin, Kucherov, Tarasenko, Ovechkin, Kaprizov, Svechnikov, Kovalchuk, Buchnevich, and then, oh, by the way, your number one center is Evgeny Malkin right now. How about Russia?
Remarkable to think, Buchnevich is as dynamic as he is, as impactful as he's been for the New York Rangers, playing fourth line right wing, gives you a good sense of the kind of depth this Russian Olympic team stands to ice come 2022 at the Winter Olympics. To me, this is always a club. You just never know what you're going to get. And I think the early part of the tournament will tell us a lot about the Russian program, that first 2 or 3 games. Do they have their game in order? Are they playing with consistency? Or are you seeing these peaks and valleys that we've seen from them? They can be a dynamo, no pun intended.
I like that.
Or they can be, a team that just kind of, for whatever reason, they're out of the gate lackluster, and they fell way short of expectations heading into the tournament. No question, you could put them just about every year in the top 3 talented rosters, but the results don't often jive with what you see on the ice.
We talked about the importance of a goalie in a setting like the Olympics. They may have the best in the world right now, and Andrei Vasilevsky. What does that do for their chances, as far as your perspective, to win gold?
We talked about this a little bit in the context of Tampa and what Vasilevsky has meant for the Bolts in years past. And they went through their share of challenges where, there were some defensive gaps and holes in their game. Vasilevsky, big as he is, talented as he is, as athletic as he is, can paper over some problems for you. And that could certainly happen on Olympic ice for the Russian program. Vasilevsky on his game. And there's no reason to think that Vasilevsky would not be on his game, and a very capable number 2 in Semyon Varlamov.
You've got some other countries out there going, hey, Russia, can you loan us some of those? I mean, they are deep when it comes to netminders
When it comes to netminders, they got it going on.
The new factory, right?
Exactly.
It used to be Finland. Speaking of Finland, let's take a closer look at Group C.
Nice transition,
See, that's what we do. That's why they pay us the big bucks. The paper money here at NHL Network. You've got Finland, Sweden, Slovakia, and Latvia. Finland, Sweden, same bracket. Those countries don't like each other. It's a great rivalry. We'd love to see it on the international stage. And much like we said in Group A with USA, Canada, we'll get an early matchup there in Group C. Let's start with the Finns. A lot of talent in the NHL. They can certainly put a roster together. Sebastian Aho comes to mind for Team Finland.
Yeah, without question. And a dynamic, dynamic forward up front for the Finns, without question. Add to the mix Barkov playing at number 1 center in front of Sebastian Aho. But there again, and this is the point we made earlier on, as you look across this roster, maybe not to the degree that you see it on Team USA projected roster, the Canadian projected roster, but you've got bona fide NHLers from all over the league populating the top 12 on Team Finland's roster. And when you can build it that way down the middle, JMO, Barkov, Aho, Holla down the middle, pretty remarkable at the end of the day. So, yes, I'm with you. Second only to the U.S.-Canada or Canada-Russia rivalry, Finland-Sweden is a lot of fun to watch.
And not that a gold medal doesn't mean much to USA or Canada or Russia, but when you talk about international competition, it just seems like the Finns and the Swedes, that's all they care about.
Yeah.
And they always seem to come out either on top or near the top.
Yeah.
And UC Saros is certainly a netminder. He's taking over the reins in Nashville right now. We expect he'll probably be the starter for Team Finland. What do you like about their chances with him between the pipes?
Yeah, and I think UC's coming off a year, too, where he really, added to what he brings to any team that he plays behind. Insofar as, though he's an undersized goaltender, the read and the reaction, the net-minding instincts are just razor sharp with this young guy. Love the way he's proactively disrupting offense in front of him, too. Really active with the stick. Great read for the situation and plays rather aggressive for a smaller guy. So, again, if this is a guy that starts the tournament at the top of his game, no question about it. Finland is a country to contend with.
All right, so let's talk about their arch rivals now. Sweden, maybe a changing of the guard when it comes to their roster. We're used to seeing the Sedins, and Henrik Lundqvist between the pipes. Those names no longer on the roster. Let's show you the projected roster, at least what we think it might look like coming up in a couple of months in Beijing. What do you make of the depth that they have here for Sweden?
Just as a backdrop, you know, once you get past Team Canada, I think that Sweden is one of those teams, and it depends on what kind of team Russia or the U.S. ices, but Team Sweden is always, I shouldn't say always, but going back a decade plus, Team Sweden has been consistently that team that will threaten Canada should they face Canada in the medal rounds. And in many instances they have, and have gone on to win gold. But again, another team chock full of really talented forwards, led by Zibanejad up front. That's a country to contend with. Sweden's always fun to watch.
And the best sweaters in Olympic competition.
Love it.
I love the blue and the yellow. We'll see how it plays out. Like we said, loaded with superstars. Should be a heck of a tournament, and we're so glad that NFL players are heading overseas to play in that.